Bucky Brooks is still with us. But Marcellus, do you have an issue with how Brian Flores has managed his quarterbacks this season?
I do have an issue with this one. Not so much when you talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick and his benching. It was inevitable. He knew it. Ryan Fitzpatrick knew his role. Still, even when the inevitable happens, you still are affected emotionally. So I understand Ryan Fitzpatrick's tears and the reaction he had. But now, looking forward, I thought everything was smooth until yesterday. You're down 10 points, and you take Tua out of a game that he needs to play through. Not play in necessarily as much as play through. Think about it. How do you build your character? You don't build your character as a football player by avoiding circumstances that are bad. You don't avoid the conversation or the action of something that may be difficult. You take it head on and endure it. And you didn't give him this enduring moment. And you still lost the game. So here's the thing. He didn't get the lesson and the learn from that moment, and you still had the same fate that you were trying to change. It's weird that Brian Flores is in a position where he needs to take a lesson from Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson is sticking by his quarterback no matter what Carson Wentz does. And that's a situation you have to do when you have Tua, a young franchise quarterback. You got to stick with him no matter how it's looking, because the game is what you're looking for. Stop trying to avoid the pain and just make your focus the game.
Could we not have gone through one segment without a Carson Wentz jab?
I mean,
without a car,
that was a hook.
Are we not more mature, Marcellus,
than to
go through a whole show, just segment, just without you taking a cheap shot on Carson? Carson, I apologize, but let me get to my point. I have an issue with how Brian Flores has been handling this situation, because he's totally been mishandling the situation. If you're going to prematurely bench Ryan Fitzpatrick, which it was premature, then you have to bench him. Sal, I played on special teams in the league. You know this because you always knocked my NFL career. But I was out there on special teams on punt. And when you were on punt team. Yeah, I was there. Punt alert! Punt alert! When you're on punt team, you can cut block a rusher, right? That means go low, take his legs out. But my coach would always tell me, he'd say, Acho, if you're going to cut him, cut him.
Yeah, I used to hear that.
Because if you're going to cut him, you better make sure you get him down, because if he gets back up, it's going to be a problem. Flores, if you gonna bench him, bench him. If you're gonna bench Ryan Fitzpatrick, this isn't one of those, okay, I'll bench you now, but I'll bring you back in. Tua when you struggle. Tua, okay, you'll start now, you won't start later. You have to treat your quarterbacks differently. I like defensive-minded head coaches. Defensive-minded head coaches are usually more relatable to their players for whatever reason. But the problem is with defensive-minded head coaches, they don't always know how to manage their quarterbacks. You can look at Vic Fangio with the Broncos. You can look at Todd Bowles with the Jets. You can look at Gus Bradley when he was with the Jaguars. They don't always know how to manage the most important position on the field. Quarterback is in a position where you can just, Tua, you're out. Fitzpatrick, you're in. Fitzpatrick, you're out. Tua, you're in. You have to be more diligent in doing that. Brian Flores has done a phenomenal job in Miami, done a phenomenal job emulating the Patriot way. But the Patriots always had that quarterback situation figured out. They had Tom Brady. Brian Flores, do not mess up this quarterback situation.
So here's the thing. I don't want to be a hypocrite, so I'm going to have to take the other side, because if I talk about Carson Wentz, your guy, and I say, hey, Doug Peterson, you got to stand in front of the room and best players play, then if I'm Brian Flores, I got to say the same thing. And if I'm looking at Tua Tagovailoa, even though it pains me to say this, because typically you want your young quarterbacks to play through their mistakes, he also taught Tua a lesson. Tua, you cannot talk about the league not being hard yet, and then you go out there and put that performance on tape and not have some consequences to go for your actions. And so when you're not playing well, you come stand over here beside me. And so now you will pay greater attention to the preparation process so that you will perform the way that you're supposed to perform. And when I took this original tape, I forgot about the clip of Jarrett Stidham going in against the New York Jets a season ago to replace Tom Brady. And even though they were up, Jarrett Stidham threw a pick six. And what happened to Jarrett Stidham?
Come here.
Come over here.
Get over here.
You sit right beside me, because this is not what we do. And so if Brian Flores is being true to the Patriot way, which he learned, he is doing what he learned from Bill Belichick. And you don't play well, you come sit. That's what he let do.
Bucky, this is a problem. I clearly understand that you and Marcellus both miss this aspect of football because y'all played longer, but defensive guys miss this. I almost missed it. nobody else is equal to a quarterback. No matter how much you want to be Bucky, nobody else is equal to a quarterback. Quarterbacks during practice, they wear a red jersey because they're not allowed to get hit. We treat quarterbacks differently physically, then why don't we treat quarterbacks differently psychologically? We clearly have shown the world and ourselves that we treat quarterbacks differently physically. In practice, the quarterback is the only player that can't get hit. Hit the punter if you want to, but do not hit the quarterback. So then why can't we treat them differently psychologically too? I'm not saying I'm for it. What I'm saying is it's the way in which football works, and it's probably the smartest way to go about playing football games. You can't just pull a better player even if he's playing worse. If that were the case, Aaron Rodgers, halfway through the Bucs game, just pull him. If that were the case, you just got to start pulling every player as soon as they have 3 or 4 bad series. You know what? Pull them. Who knows when they would have come out of that slump? Shooters oftentimes play terribly for the first 2.5 quarters. What happens late? They get hot. So, sure, Tua had some bad drives. I remember he threw a nice back shoulder fade early on, I think first or second drive of the game. He had some bad drives. But who knows if he would have got hot? We never will.
No, we won't know, but here are the things, because I heard you guys kind of talk about this in a roundabout way on the show multiple times because of our football experience. We always talk about commitment, accountability, and trust. Well, the accountability piece is you're accountable for your performance. And I will say this because you kind of led me into this. We always treat the quarterbacks differently. We give them a red jersey. Don't yell at the quarterback. Only one person can talk to the quarterback. Yet when they go into the office to sign the contract, they always sign the deal that is like 2 or 3 times more than anybody else on the team because they're so valuable. I think the lesson that Brian Flores is trying to teach Tua Tagovailoa and the rest of his team, you are judged by the way that you perform on the field on Sundays. And if you don't perform, you will come out. And I will say this as someone who has been cut 5 times. And Acho, I know you moved around, you were traded or whatever. Once you got moved, what did that urgency move up to once you decided that, oh, I can be let go? I need to be on my P's and Q's. And so now that Tua has been benched, I think we might see a greater level of attention to detail and performance because he knows if I don't perform, I can come out.
Bucky Brooks.
Look at this.
I feel you, big dog, because you're right. I got traded from Cleveland to Philly. That did nothing for my urgency. But after you get cut 1, 2, 3, 4, I got cut 5 times before the age of 25, you're on your P's and Q's. But let me tell you what you can't do, because this was my NFL career. You can't live your whole career scared. Bucky, every day I would tiptoe into the Eagles facility. Dun-dun, 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 dun-dun. Like, am I about to get cut? Am I about like an equipment manager would tap me on the shoulder? True story. Let me tell you all story time. True story. Marcellus, after I was like scared I was about to get cut, we were inching into cut day. I'm sitting in my locker at 6:45 a.m. It's during training camp. Equipment manager, his name is Greg Delamitro. He says, "Hey, Acho, can I come see you for a second?" I don't know who the Grim Reaper is. Y'all know this. In football, the Grim Reaper is a person that cuts y'all. I don't know who the Grim Reaper is because I just got to Philly. Equipment manager, Acho, can I come see you for a second? I walk in there with my chest held high. I'm like, if I get cut, it's all good. I did everything I could do. He's like, hey, Acho, just try on this new helmet, man. Well, yeah, your last helmet, we can't use it anymore. I'm like, oh, my God. I was living scared. Bucky, Tua is a quarterback in the National Football League. Tua cannot be like, don't throw that out route because if it gets picked, you're going to the bench. Don't throw that dig because if the linebacker undercuts it and jumps, you're going to the bench. That back shoulder fade, don't force it because if the DB plays on the back shoulder and picks it, you're going to get benched. Quarterbacks can't live like that.
And ladies and gentlemen, that was the latest edition of Cut Wars. Acho and Brooks. Hey, that Grim Reaper come around in late August. Ain't nobody friends with that dude. That is real right there. Bucky is interesting. His take, he's not wrong. I just think I'm right. In terms of when you come out in 1 week and say that the NFL's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. The NFL, the league is easy. And then you put out that performance, coach is sitting there like, ooh, I could teach this youngster a lesson. But Bucky wasn't wrong. I'm just right in this situation. You have to look at your franchise quarterback differently. You have to let him be in this moment and endure this moment. I take you back to an example in my household. It happens all the time in which you have to get a kid, into your program, not on the kid's schedule. A lot of parents come up to me all the time complaining, how you have so many kids and you're not pulling out all your hair? I was like, well, one, my wife is amazing. She's in the medical field, and she's really into preparing our schedule. Schedule is key. And what I learned from her is there are moments when you're like, okay, I have to teach this